How you guys doing? So, this is kind of a spur of the moment video, and I probably should have planned for this little further in advance, but I'm going to show you guys how to make something today, and I'm going to go ahead and preface this with a story and the reason why I'm choosing to make this item rather than just purchase it. So, several weeks ago, about a month ago, I went on this hunting trip, and I went via boat um, to this very remote island. This island called Knight Island in the Prince William Sound in Alaska. And this is an island that's pretty far away from any civilization, any housing or anything. It's out there, and it's so far out there that you can see so many stars in the sky. Like you can't even make out constellations. Like it's just stars everywhere. And so we go out to this remote location to go hunt deer, and because they introduced these deer to these islands years back, and so we're going out there to scout around and try to find some to hunt. And I went to this trip not expecting to do this, and I had this Mjolnir that I made, and I crafted it out of a piece of copper that I found. I actually cut it off of this piece right here. I came off of this chunk here, this copper plate that I found in a field, and I had cut this out and hammered it to a shape of a nice Mjolnir. And what I had done was I had got the shape I liked. I kind of ground at it. It came out exactly how I wanted it. It was nice and rustic looking. It wasn't smooth and pretty or anything like that, but it was really rough and rustic. And what I did was I took and I put salt on it and hung it in a jar over a thin layer of ammonia, which forces a patina on it, which is that like aged penny look, that kind of greenish color, greenish blue color. And so what I did after that was I took and I coated it with like spray shellac, or not shellac, it was spray lacquer, something like that, and which sealed in the patina. So this is my first ever piece ever made out of metal, my first forging ever, and it was my first Mjolnir, and it meant a lot to me. It meant it had a lot of value to me that went far beyond the monetary. And it was made with my imagination, my vision, my creativity. It was made with my labor. It was a learning experience to make something like this for the first time, and it was of very high value to me personally. The material itself was probably no more valuable than $2, but to me, I mean, it really didn't have a whole lot of monetary value. It went beyond that. So what happened was, I had been wearing this thing for about a year, and for the last several months I had it, I was just wearing it all the time. I would wear it in the shower. I'd wear it to bed. I would wear it at work. Just constantly wearing it. So I get out there, and as on this boat, we're putting fuel in the boat before we take off, and we're in this little bay, and I see these two crows landed right on the boat right by me, and I just had this thought come to me that I should cast this thing into the ocean, because I'm constantly trying to learn more about myself. I'm trying to learn more about everything else, and I'm trying to move forward and improve myself. And I saw this thing as part of my old self, so to speak. So in that, I felt it very symbolic to cast this thing into the ocean as a sort of shedding of my old self, as well as a sacrifice of something very valuable to me that went beyond monetary value. So I tossed it away. I tossed it to the bay one night, and I was out there in the bay we got to, not the bay I was filling up with the gas at filling the boat up. So we get to this bay, and as I said, I mean, there were stars everywhere. There was the aurora borealis was out north in the sky, and I'm out there on the deck at night playing my lyre, making music. And there's maybe two other boats in the bay, same bay we're at, and and other than that, we're pretty secluded. So I'm out there playing and just being in nature, being in the glory of the gods. And so I'm thinking, and I'm like, well, this is the best time to do this. So I casted this Mjolnir into the ocean, and now it's at the bottom of a bay. I'll never get it back, and it's gone. So I need to make a new one. So this is what I'm going to show you guys today. And this material I'm using is whalebone. It's a piece of ancient whalebone, which means that it washed up on a beach somewhere and got collected. And I purchased it for $2.50. It's very porous. Very porous. Like you could blow right through it. Now I don't know how durable this material is going to be once I cut into it and get to the actual outer layer, the hard outer layer here. I don't know how far back it'll go or how much material it'll give me to work with, but we're going to cut it open and find out. And if this doesn't work, I have a nice piece of moose antler we're going to use. So in either case, it's going to be whalebone or moose antler. And the reason I'm choosing to make my own rather than to purchase my own is I find it to be of much more value and authenticity if you make one yourself. And it's not that hard to do. There's numerous ways to do it. You can make it out of, a piece of bone, a piece of copper. You can make it out of a nice piece of wood. Like I have some very unique woods around here. Like this piece of, spalted maple, which is all these black lines are caused by fungi. Something, one carved out of a piece of wood like this would be beautiful and unique and plenty durable enough for a pendant. So there's many ways that you can make your own and many materials you can make it out of. So today I'm going to try to make it out of whalebone or antler. And when you craft an item like this, you're putting a part of yourself into it. It's coming from your imagination, okay? It's coming from your creativity, part of your soul, you could argue ancestral memory, blood memory even, perhaps. And it has much more value that way. And it's much more authentic, too, than just buying one that was made in China. And, for $20 on Amazon or whatever it is. When you could buy a piece of antler for a couple dollars, or a piece of wood, or a piece of copper, or a piece of silver, and you could just craft it yourself in your garage. So that's what I'm going to show you guys how to do today. I'm just going to show you the process of me splitting this thing open and seeing what it looks like inside, determining if I can use anything on it, and then we're going to trace out a pattern, and then we'll continue to cut on it and polish it up. I'm going to show you guys how I do that. So I hope you enjoy this video.
Is to take a clean cloth and place it in a vise to protect the bone from the teeth of the vise. I loosely clamp the bone in place and start to cut away at the outer layer with a hacksaw. The goal is to separate it from the pithy, porous inside, which will be of no use to me. Separated and open, I could tell that it's going to be far too porous and brittle for my uses. So I decide to scrap this and choose another material. This material is going to be Walrus Ivory. Picked this up for $20. I've never worked with it before, so this should be an interesting little project. If it all works out, this will be an awesome little piece. With a cutoff wheel and a Dremel, I go ahead and start to cut the shape out that I just traced with the carpenter's pencil. I go slowly, not chopping in too much at any time. That's to prevent the wheel from breaking, let alone any of the ivory that might be brittle. With the majority of the shape cut out, I go ahead and use a cutoff wheel to grind away at any of the bulk touch-up sections that might be remaining. I'll come back and fine-tune this with some grinding wheels later on. It's looking great so far, so the next step is going to be to use a little grinding wheel on my Dremel, and I'm going to go ahead and work out some of the imperfections. I'm going to grind down some of the high points as to balance it out. I'm also going to give the edges a slight bevel, which will help the final polish reflect more. Grinding away and doing this sort of work, you want to take it slowly, doing a little bit at a time, and briefly pausing to take a look at your work and see how balanced it looks before you decide if you want to remove more or not. Use a 120 grit Dremel sanding wheel. This will help remove some of the deeper grind marks from the grinding stone in preparation of the polishing phase. I lightly work away at all of these surfaces that I previously used the grinding stone on. As I mentioned, this is to mainly remove any of the grindstone marks. However, this also helps to fine-tune any of the little high points or imbalances in the overall shape of the Mjolnir. I attach a wool polishing wheel, and I use some diamond paste. This is going to be my polishing compound. This is what's going to give this Mjolnir its final touches, give it its final shine, and take any of the fine scratches that were left from the sandpaper right out of the surface. I use this wheel, and I polish every surface. I especially polish around the bevels on the edges of the Mjolnir. This will help the shine to reflect from more angles. When done at that stage, I use a microfiber cloth to wipe off any of the excess compound, and the shine looks great. The overall finish of this piece is now finished. Is to take this little diamond grinding bit. At a high speed, I start to drill a small pilot hole. I don't use too much pressure. I don't want to crack this thing. All I'm doing is letting the bit do the work for me. I use a little bit of pressure, and I hold the bit straight. But the rest of what works here is the bit itself. I drill through one side, I check the other side, make sure I haven't gone through yet. And then once I get through all the way, I go back through with the bit and slowly widen the hole wide enough to accept a paracord. Again, when in this process, you don't want to use too much pressure, and you want to make sure that you leave the walls thick enough to support any sort of pressure or tension that may otherwise break the Mjolnir.
Alright, so that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. So, I ended up not liking the whalebone. It was a little too frail, and I don't really like the size that it came out as. I wanted it a little bit bigger, so that's why I went with that Walrus Ivory, and that's what I got here. You can see how reflective it is. You can see my own camera in the reflection. So, I don't have a fancy chain for this. You could easily get one. You can make one yourself too. I've never done that, but there's plenty of videos on the old YouTube on how to do that. So what I generally do, what I did with my last one, was after I punch that hole in there, I just take a piece of parachute cord, and I pull the internal cord out, so I just have the outer sheath. You melt the end with a lighter, so you can feed it through. And it's quite simple. You bring it down to the center, and I just tie a knot and fix the knot with super glue. And I make it just big enough so that I can slide it over my head. So generally I'll just bring it around my head like so and figure out where I need to tie it. That way it's just enough to be draped over my head, and then it hangs a nice little distance. It doesn't hang too far, it's not too tight. I like it about there. So what I'll do is I'll then start to tie a knot here, and I'll just tie a double knot. And then make sure it's, yep, perfect size. Perfect length. And then what I'll do next is I'll take a drop of super glue, just put a little dab on the knot so it doesn't come loose. And then I'll cut the ends, leaving about a 1/4 inch tag. And I'll melt that away with a lighter. And there it is, the new Mjolnir, Walrus Ivory. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. And there's places to get this material online. It's legal to buy if it's washed up on the shore. Where I bought it was this place called Alaska Fur Exchange. You can find their website and order directly from them if you can't find anyone else online that sells it. You might be able to buy pieces on Etsy too, but this piece I bought, that whole piece that I cut it out of, was only 20 bucks. So if you can't find it cheaper anywhere else, I would just order directly from them if you're interested in going with that material. All in all, this is a fun little short project. It took me about 1.5 hours to do. So hope you guys enjoyed that video, and let me know what you think. So stay safe, and as always, be well.